And today we are going to preview the national championship game for Monday, and it features Alabama versus Georgia, which means it also features the two most talented teams in the sport. And that's not me saying that. That is the 140 4- or 5-star players that signed with Alabama. Like, I got to set this up for you, man. 74 of Alabama's 85 scholarship players are blue chip recruits. That is to say 4- or 5-star players. 66 of Georgia's 85 scholarship players are 4- or 5-star recruits. You see what I'm saying here? It's just bonkers. And while Saban signing 74 blue chip recruits is impressive, the 66 at Georgia is more impressive to me. And let me tell you why. Alabama has built this roster basically on the strength of winning 6 national championships since 2009, but also on the strength of who they are putting in the NFL and how they are doing it with regularity. Check this out. A list of first-round picks by school since 2008, or the first year that Nick Saban could have put an Alabama player into the NFL draft. And look, at number 1, by a landslide, it is Alabama with 39 first-round picks. That is the most by any coach at a single school, and tied, with Joe Paterno at 33 before having 6 first-rounders in the 2021 draft, right? So Joe Pa at 33 there, but then Ohio State at 22, and we understand what it looks like over there. Chris Olave, right? Garrett Wilson, those guys are going to probably be first-round draft picks, and Jackson Smith and Jigba might be a top 5 Heisman candidate if he isn't already for 2022. LSU with 18 first-round picks. You know what it is over there. Florida, my goodness, the Urban Meyer year is still barking at us. 18 first-round picks there, to say nothing of Steve Spurrier and what he was able to do. And then USC, which traditionally has been a blue blood and a power with 16 first-round picks, probably going to push that number even farther into the air with Lincoln Riley as a new head coach. But you'll see who's absent of this list. The University of Georgia, right? Like, that's bonkers to me. Kirby Smart has cranked up Georgia to a point where, on paper, they are more talented than Ohio State, than LSU, than Clemson, and yet hasn't won a national championship since 1980 and hasn't beaten Alabama since 2007. But because they're both sides of the ball have studs on them, I wanted to take a look at the SEC title game to see what we see, right? And to give you some analysis, play a little quarterback out here. And there are a couple of ways that I want to go about this, but I want to start with Georgia and walk through some matchups that I think that they can win and have to win, quite frankly, on both sides of the ball to win the national championship on January 10th. And the first one is, quite frankly, this simple. Get your Jimmies against Alabama's Joes in the secondary, right? Because you can see right here now, George Pickens is a freak show, and they get him back off the injury. And you saw what he was able to do in the SEC title game. Down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a one-on-one matchup with the 5-star, George Pickens, on the 5-star, JaQuincy McKinstry. But the reason that they are able to get this one-on-one matchup is because previous in the drive, they've been using James Cook to great effect to run between the tackles and to make that Alabama front seven, and quite frankly, one of the safeties, respect his ability to run the football, while also Stetson Bennett has been able to complete passes on both sides of the field. So, yeah, looking for a matchup you can win. You say, hey, look, I got a 5-star, you got a 5-star, but I trust my junior wide receiver more than I trust your true freshman corner. And George Pickens is streaking downfield when Stetson Bennett says, hey, look, I'm going to throw it up to you, big fella. Go make a play. And that's what the freak show does. That is what happens when you are just more talented than the guy you're playing against, or have more experience, or in this case, both, right? You're able to go and make a play on the ball against an opponent that just hasn't been here before. UGA is able to go play action. Alabama has to respect that. Alabama bites, and yet you can't get Jordan Battle over the top to get a lid on that play. George Pickens makes a play. Remember, in the 2019 Sugar Bowl, he had 12 catches for 175 yards. Or I should say the 2020 Sugar Bowl for the 2019 season. I say let that man work for you against Alabama and their secondary. We saw Leonard Taylor have success against Quincy McKinstry in the Cotton Bowl, though no touchdown passes were thrown by Desmond Ridder, but you could see he had beat him up, and I think they're going to try to identify where McKinstry is on the field with the loss of Josh Jobe and try to go at him as much as they can. It worked for him in the SEC title game. It worked for Cincinnati in the Cotton Bowl. It ought to work for Georgia in the national championship. Next play I want to take a look at is really just outstanding play design by one Todd Monken. Now, look, you've got 3 wide receivers at the top, right? And you got 2 at the bottom. We've gone empty here because we've been able to flex James Cook, who was in the running back spot, out onto the numbers and force an Alabama safety down over the top of number 84, Ladd McConkey. And McConkey is in the middle of that trips formation right there. Little tunnel screen. He says, hey, RJ, I might not be the highest rated recruit, but I can take that ball and watch what I do with it. And you got a jailbreak screen here. You got your big, strong offensive lineman out in front. You got wide receivers that are putting a hat on a hat. And it's drawn up in such a way that Todd Monken knew that they were going to get this look. And as soon as you can get a safety to commit to showing you what the defensive coverage's hand looks like, Stetson Bennett ought to be able to pick that apart. You got to be able to get more of those actions pre-snap into what you're doing if you're Georgia. Because if you get to give Stetson Bennett a full picture of what is likely to happen post-snap, you're going to win more than you lose. And it's really about watching those wheels that are the safeties, okay? If you got a safety that is dropping down and you got a safety that is moving up, a single high. That means you got man on the outside, and you just got to say, hey, look, my player's got to be better than your players in some spots. And this is one in which not only was a player better than a spot, but you just had great execution on great play design and a great play call by Todd Monken. Alabama DBs playing off cushion, giving coverage. You let Ladd McConkey catch that ball. You let him get ahead of steam, and he says, hey, RJ, watch what I do with this. All right, I want to take a look at Georgia on the defensive side now, because we all remember Bryce Young went for 421 against this vaunted Georgia defense, but you also get to see where the strength is of this Georgia defense and, quite frankly, where the weakness is. So we're going to get to the weakness here in a bit, but the strength has to be a strength. Number 1 on your list, if you're the Georgia defense, is get Bryce Young on the ground. Do not let that man do his Houdini thing, make like Neo in the Matrix, and just avoid you. There were 3 plays in the first half where Georgia had Young dead to rights, and they missed him all 3 times. You want to beat Georgia for the first time in 15 years, or excuse me, you want to beat Alabama for the first time in 15 years, you're going to have to put Bryce Young on the ground. So in this play, second quarter, 7:37 left on the clock. You see UGA at the line showing blitz. There's 7 men inside of that box. There are 5 on the defensive line. It doesn't matter that Bryce Young has identified this, because this is a front in which Georgia's bringing more guys than you can block, okay? So when the play goes, you'll see stunts at the line of scrimmage. You'll see twists. Simulated pressures is what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But in this play, you saw Nakobe Dean come off of the stunt in the middle, in the A-gap, and get right next to Bryce Young. Can't put his hands on him. Bryce Young does what a Heisman winner is supposed to do. He makes a play as he is falling down to Jaleel Billingsley, picks up the first down. If Dean puts Young on the ground there, it's 4th and long. That was 3rd down. And UGA has a chance to not just get the ball back, but perhaps block a punt near the Bama end zone, maybe return it for a score. That flips the game for you, right? It's not only just because Bryce Young is able to keep that play going and that series really pays off for them in the end. It's that Georgia had an opportunity to not just get off the field, but get the ball in plus field position. Now, let's take a look at another one. Second quarter, 3:41 left. This is the same drive as the previous play. It's 3rd and 1. Georgia's defense coordinator, Dan Lanning, has dialed up pressure again, although here, you're not really sure where it's coming from because they got 5 guys in the box. They got 5 on the line of scrimmage here, okay? So when the play runs, one of the things that I'm looking at is just whether or not Georgia wants to bite on the sweep. Because as this play is going, you'll see Georgia just doesn't respect what Bryce Young is doing here on the fake. And in particular, Nakobe Dean has sniffed it out right away, and he's chasing Bryce Young down. He just can't get there in time. You have to be able to get there. You are the best linebacker on what is the best defense in football. You have to be the guy to make that play. If they make that play, you get the ball back, right? Or at the very least, you're able to hold them to a field goal. Later in the second half, Devontae Wyatt manages to strip Bryce Young, but UGA can't recover the fumble. This is also a play in which John Mechie is hurt on. Instead, Young takes off on that same series, running again, and he scores on you to put Alabama up again. These are stops you got to have if you're the Georgia defense, right? These are things that quite literally are hustle plays. Can you get there, and can you put your hands on him, and can you put that player on the ground? All right, now let's take a look at what Alabama needs to do. The first thing that Alabama needs to do, particularly on offense, is identify the fourth rusher. You heard me talk about simulated pressures. These are fire zones. These are rushing linebackers and safeties that simulate pressure like you're bringing more than four, right? You're bringing more than the four players on the line of scrimmage. And when you're bringing those four, you're bringing them from odd places, right? To try to confuse the offensive line and to change up their blocking assignments and really to catch them on the wrong foot. Alabama has got to identify that fourth guy and pick him up quick, fast, and in a hurry. So when I take a look at one of these plays, this one in the second quarter, 14:27 left to play, it's 3rd and 2, and you can do anything you want here if you are Alabama. You got options on 3rd and 2. The pre-snap pictures, 2 high safeties, right? But you can see one already creeping down. It's a 6-man box. That's something that you ought to be able to pass against if you want to, right? To say nothing of being able to run against it. The offensive line and Young expect UGA to bring at least 4 on every play, all right? So, again, identify that fourth guy and pick him up. When the play goes, you'll see Young senses the danger. He moves over Brian Robinson, and up comes 6'2", 230-pound Channing Tindall as the fourth rusher, and there goes Brian Robinson to absolutely stand that dude up, lowers the boom with the Kamehameha to just knock him back. Meanwhile, you got safety Christopher Smith, bails at the top. Jameson Williams is well underneath him, and then it's just, Jameson Williams is a freak show. We'll talk about that here in just a second. He says, see ya on a post route, and he keeps going all the way out there. This is great recognition by the offensive line, great recognition by Brian Robinson, and then Bryce Young just sees a Jameson Williams streaking across the middle on that post route, and that's 6 there. That's gorgeous. That's beautiful. But you got to be able to identify that fourth rusher every series, every play, to give him that kind of clean pocket to make plays, all right? Next thing that Alabama has to do is force UGA to show its hand and into man coverage with the running back in motion. I love this play. This is first quarter with 6:01 left, right? So you'll see down at the bottom of the screen here, right, you have John Mechie lined up one-on-one with a corner, okay? This is beautiful because you had Trey Sanders out in the slot, and all Bryce Young did was move him back to the running back spot to make to make Georgia show what they're going to do here. So when the play goes, you'll see for Bryce Young, this is easy, right? I got one-on-one matchup with John Mechie on the outside. I'm just going to throw it to that guy and say, we're going to beat you every single time you get us man coverage. And that pays dividends for Alabama all game long with that running back motion. This is really impressive for me, okay? This happens again. Second quarter, 12:35 left to play, okay? Look at this pre-snap picture. Okay, this is you can see the ball's just been snapped, but before this, Christian Leary was in the backfield as a running back. Christian Leary is a tailback, or playing a tailback in this game. He's a wide receiver. So if you're Georgia, identify that right away. But even so, when Bryce Young flexes Christian Leary out to the numbers, that forced a safety down over the top of John Mechie inside the numbers. So you know what you have. You know what you're looking at. And then it's just, hey, look, I expect John Mechie to beat a safety every single time. That's a dude that's not used to playing corner. He's not used to locking up man-to-man. And then it's just, hey, look, I'm going to throw it up to my guy and say, go make a play. Now, I think somebody got crossed up here, but even so, Leary was able to back off of his route to let John Mechie go make a play on this. But the reason that this play was even able to be made is because Young was able to flex Christian Leary out of the running back position to make Georgia show its hand, to show you the matchup that you want to exploit with the safety over the top of John Mechie, and you make a play. Now, the reason I put this play in the show, quite honestly, is I think this play works against Georgia every single time, whether John Mechie's on the field or not. I understand he's hurt and he's not playing, but you do have Ja'Cory Brooks. You do have Trayshawn Holden. You have talented wide receivers that can make that play against the safety and quite honestly ought to every single time. Ja'Cory Brooks did this in the Cotton Bowl against Cincinnati. They didn't want to go at Kobe Bryant. They didn't want to go at Sauce Gardner. They went at a 3-star recruit, my man Arshawn. No disrespect to Arshawn, but that was a 5-star wide receiver who just outran you on a go route. If you're going to give Alabama one-on-one with these really, really talented wide receivers, you're going to slit your own throat, right? You just don't want to do that. So whenever you can, try to cloud this picture, but when Bryce Young has you, he has you, all right? Now, the next play that I want to look at is another Jimmy's and Joe's, right? This is Alabama style because Jameson Williams is a freak show. This is third quarter, 13:21 left. It's 2nd and 5. Alabama's up 24-17 near midfield. At the bottom of the screen, you see Jameson Williams, okay? He's lined up on Keely Ringo. Now, Jameson Williams is a 4-star coming out of high school. Keely Ringo is a 5-star coming out of high school. RG, you told me stars matter. Coaching matters too. If they're close in proximity when we were talking about talent, hey, did I coach you right and did we get you in a matchup and how much experience do you have? Jameson Williams has been playing a lot of football and been the best wide receiver at Alabama all year, to say nothing of what he was doing at Ohio State. Keely Ringo is one of 4 brand new starters in the Georgia secondary this year. Remember, they had their whole secondary get drafted last year. That's the weakness for the Georgia defense. They're not very strong on the back end. And you know Darion Kendrick's on the other side, and you know that you're not likely to want to test him. Darion Kendrick had 2 interceptions against Michigan in the Orange Bowl. So when you see number 5 on the field and you can get your number 1 wide up on him, you're going to take advantage of that every single time. And then that's just a Heisman winner tossing up a bomb to a streaking freak show of speed in Jameson Williams. Hey, that's 5-star to 5-star. There's not a whole hell of a lot you can do about that, because when you got a cannon like that and you are accurate like that, and you have a guy that is imitating the Flash on his Barry Gordon, look at this, just flying by him. Look, oh, the stop and start. I love that. That's gorgeous. That's not just play design. That is also knowing what your talent is capable of, because Bill O'Brien gets you in a spot. He says, Jameson Williams, I think you can beat Keely Ringo. I like you in that matchup one-on-one. Bryce Young, I think you can make that play, throw in that 55-yard bomb on a dime, and I think we can win football games playing that way. This is gorgeous football to me. This is what I'm watching when I watch a football game. Where are my matchups? What are my safeties doing? What did we do pre-snap to try to give my quarterback a better picture of what is going on with the defense? And then it's execution, right? And the reason that Bryce Young is a Heisman winner is because when the play is over, or when the play seems like it's done, he's Houdini and out of the pocket. Nakobe Dean's got to get hands on him, but if he doesn't, Bryce Young's going to take advantage of you, and that's just going to be what it is. Really, really outstanding stuff for Georgia and Alabama. I'm excited to see how this plays out in the national championship game at Lucas Oil on Monday. Thanks for watching this video, and remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 Ranked Show YouTube channel.